What if everything you've ever been taught about hard work is a lie? Not a mistake, not an oversight, but a beautifully packaged, deliberately crafted lie designed to keep you exactly where you are. From the moment you were old enough to hold a pen or swing a tool, they told you to grind, to hustle, to sweat. They said, the harder you work, the more you will rise. You will be rewarded. You will be respected. And you believed it. We all did. We swallowed that poison like it was a promise, a guarantee of a better future. But I want you to look around. Really look. The hardest workers are not in power. They are not the ones signing the checks or making the final calls. They are the ones on the assembly line, on the battlefield, in the cubicle, breaking their backs while someone else plays a game of chess with their futures. You've seen it. The man who puts in 60 hours a week gets a pat on the back and a small bonus, while the one who works 20 hours from a beach chair somehow manages to acquire a fortune. The glorification of hard work isn't a virtue. It's a control mechanism. It's a shiny, glittering cage built to keep you obedient. And here's the truth they never wanted you to hear. The real danger of hard work isn't that it's ineffective. It's that it's predictable. Think about it. Those who work the hardest are often the most easily used. They move in straight lines, their motions visible, their exhaustion a testament to their harmlessness. You don't fear the man who's always tired. You don't watch the one who loudly announces his grind. You ignore him because you know he's playing the wrong game. He's on the hamster wheel, convinced he's climbing a staircase. Niccolo Machiavelli, the master of political strategy, once warned that appearances often deceive. And what if the greatest deception of our time is this cult of effort itself? The belief that your value is measured by your willingness to suffer. In Renaissance Florence, the most powerful men were not the ones toiling in the fields or sweating over the forge. They were the ones who understood a timeless principle. Control is not earned by labor. It is acquired by leverage. A prince does not rule because he works harder than the peasant. He rules because he sees further. He moves quieter. He thinks sharper. Strategy is not louder than labor. It is simply less romantic. And so, the poets and storytellers of our culture never sing its praises. The masses are conditioned to worship the worker, the man with calloused hands and a weary back, while the elite, the true rulers, engineer the conditions that make the worker necessary. Who benefits from a society that glorifies endless work? Who wins when you're too tired to think, too loyal to question, too invested in your own suffering to realize it was never your path to power? You were told to be proud of the grind, but pride is not power, and fatigue is not virtue. The man who never stops moving never notices he's just walking in circles. The moment you confuse usefulness with power, you have already lost the game. You were taught to climb the ladder, but no one ever told you it might be leaning against the wrong wall. You were trained to move faster, but never to question where you were going. You were told that discipline meant endurance, but never that it could also mean restraint. True discipline is not about doing more. It is about knowing exactly when to stop. The strategist does not chase every opportunity. He selects a few. He ignores the noise and sharpens his blade in the dark. He doesn't seek credit. He moves quietly until the move matters. This is the power of strategic withholding, because the man who is always visible, always active, and always loud is easy to predict, and the predictable man is the most vulnerable creature in any room. You were told that to be a man of worth, you had to be a man of action. To be a man of action, you had to have calloused hands and a weary body. But let me introduce you to the man who truly holds power. The man who is the architect, not the bricklayer. the man who owns the blueprint, not the hammer. Imagine two men. One is a bricklayer. He arrives at the construction site every day at dawn. He works until his back aches, until his hands are raw. He is diligent, he is reliable, and he is respected by the other workers. His pride is in the number of bricks he lays, in the straightness of his walls. He is a testament to the virtue of hard work. And the other man? He's the architect. He rarely visits the site. When he does, he's in a clean suit, and he speaks in quiet tones. He doesn't touch the bricks. He doesn't lift a finger. He simply points. He makes a single gesture, and a whole section of wall is torn down and rebuilt. The bricklayer sees this as a waste of his effort, a dismissal of his sweat. The architect sees it as a correction, a necessary move to ensure the final structure is sound. Now, who has power in this scenario? The bricklayer? He has the respect of his peers. Yes, he has the pride of his labor. But his work is a transaction. He sells his time and his strength for a wage. His identity is tied to his output. He is seen as a tool, an essential one, but still a tool. The architect, on the other hand, is not defined by his work. He is defined by his vision and his leverage. He doesn't need to exert physical effort because he has mastered the rules of the game. He doesn't need to prove his worth with his hands because his worth is already established by his mind. This is the core problem, the one we are all trapped in. We have been conditioned to see ourselves as bricklayers in a world that is run by architects. We are taught to admire the grind, to believe that effort alone will lead to a kingdom. But kingdoms are not built with effort alone. They are won through insight. They are captured through strategy. And what happens to the bricklayer? He works harder and harder. He takes on extra shifts. He boasts about his long hours. He becomes a master of his craft. He is an essential part of the system. He is the most useful man on the site. But useful is not powerful. Useful is a vulnerability. The moment the architect decides to change the design, the bricklayer's skill, his hard work, his entire identity becomes obsolete. He has to start over. He has to learn a new way of doing things, because he never asked what the ultimate goal was. He just kept laying bricks. And that's the tragedy. We are all so busy proving our worth, so busy showing everyone how hard we're working, that we never stop to ask if our work is actually serving a purpose we control. We don't ask who benefits. We don't ask if we're building a prison for ourselves. We just keep stacking bricks, one after another, day after day, year after year. The man who works 10 times harder often serves the one who thinks 10 times sharper. He is a slave to his own exhaustion. He is a prisoner of his own loyalty. He is so focused on the next brick that he never sees the entire palace taking shape, a palace where he will never live. Think of the gladiator. He is the ultimate symbol of the hard worker. He sweats. He bleeds. He fights with everything he has, with a ferocity born of desperation and a lifetime of training. The crowd cheers his name. He is the hero of the arena, the man who earned his respect through suffering. He is admired. He is celebrated. He is the very embodiment of the grind. But who truly holds power in that arena? Not the gladiator, the emperor, the one watching from the stands. He is clean, comfortable, and silent. He doesn't lift a finger. He doesn't shed a drop of sweat. With a single gesture, he determines life or death. With a simple turn of his thumb, he rewrites the gladiator's future. The gladiator's hard work, his bravery, his willingness to endure, is all for the emperor's entertainment. It is a performance. And performers, no matter how good, are ultimately disposable. The emperor, on the other hand, is the one who controls the rules of the game. He owns the arena. He sets the stage. He profits from the spectacle. This is the great deception. Society conditions you to believe that to be noble is to suffer, that your worth is measured by your willingness to endure thankless hours, to chase burnout as if it were a badge of honor. It tells you that rest is weakness, that silence is laziness, that sleep is a luxury you can't afford. But ask yourself, who planted that idea in your mind? Who gains when you never stop? Who wins when you are always producing, but never commanding? Hard work without strategy is gladiator blood. It is dramatic, it is respected, but it is ultimately disposable. The crowds cheer, the sponsors profit, and the man in the sand dies for applause that doesn't last. And yet we hand out trophies for exhaustion. We worship burnout. We confuse being busy with being important. There's a sickness among the ambitious, a hidden disease passed down like wisdom. It tells them that effort equals worth, that the man who suffers the most is somehow more deserving, more noble, more real. But suffering on its own is not a credential. It is often the tax the unstrategic pay for their lack of clarity. The world is filled with men who confuse being tired with being useful. They wear their exhaustion like armor, believing that if they just outwork everyone, eventually the throne will be handed to them. But thrones are not awarded for effort. They are taken through insight, manipulation, and perfect timing. This is where the Machiavellian mind separates from the masses. It does not ask, how can I do more? It asks, how can I make less, feel like more, to everyone watching? This is the difference between the man climbing the ladder and the man who built the ladder and sold it to him. The worker seeks validation. The strategist engineers perception. The worker waits to be chosen. The strategist removes the illusion of choice entirely. The reason we are told to worship effort is because the man who grinds endlessly is safe. He is no threat to the system. He has no time to study the game. He is too busy to ask the real questions, too tired to challenge the very system that keeps him spinning. He becomes a cog. Honorable maybe, but still a cog. And cogs, you see, are replaceable. A lion does not become king of the jungle by hunting every day. He becomes king because he chooses when to hunt. His presence creates silence. His stillness is more terrifying than another's aggression. A hard worker runs toward the problem. A strategist watches the battlefield and moves once when the time is right and wins with one strike. And yet, we hand out trophies for exhaustion. We worship burnout as if it were a badge of honor. We call sleep a weakness, rest a luxury, silence a flaw. But ask yourself, who planted that idea in your mind? Who gains when you never stop, when you always produce but never command? Hard work unchecked becomes a form of self-betrayal. It disguises itself as discipline, but often it's just avoidance, a refusal to think deeper, to plan sharper, to demand more with less movement. There's a reason kings had advisors, not calluses. A reason the most feared men in history weren't the loudest. They were the ones you never saw coming. They were the ones who moved once, not 1,000 times, who used others' movement as their advantage, who weaponized stillness like a blade. So when someone tells you to just work harder, understand that is not a strategy. That is a command designed for someone they do not see as a threat. Because the moment you become a threat, the moment you start thinking instead of just doing, is the moment they stop applauding your grind and start fearing your presence. The world is filled with men who confuse being tired with being useful. They wear their exhaustion like armor, believing that if they just outwork everyone, eventually, the throne will be handed to them. But thrones are not awarded for effort. They are taken through insight, manipulation, and perfect timing. The man who works 10 times harder often serves the one who thinks 10 times sharper. Think of the gladiator again. He sweats, he bleeds, he fights. The crowd cheers. But who truly holds power in the arena? The emperor, the one watching, deciding, judging. With a single gesture, he rewrites the future. Not through labor, but through leverage. Hard work without strategy is gladiator blood, dramatic, respected, but ultimately disposable. And yet, society conditions you to believe that to be noble is to suffer, that your worth is measured by your willingness to endure thankless hours, that rest is weakness and silence is laziness. But hear this clearly. The most powerful men are not the busiest. They are the most deliberate. They don't run faster. They remove friction. They don't compete harder. They change the rules. A Machiavellian mind does not ask, "How can I do more?" It asks, "How can I make less feel like more to everyone watching?" This is the difference between the man climbing the ladder and the man who built the ladder and sold it to him. The worker seeks validation. The strategist engineers perception. The worker waits to be chosen. The strategist removes the illusion of choice entirely. This is the moment of reckoning. The moment the illusion shatters and a cold, brutal truth sets in. You've been running your whole life. You've been told to be proud of the grind, to wear your exhaustion like a badge of honor. But as you look around, you feel it. A gnawing, terrifying emptiness. The applause feels hollow. The praise feels cheap. The exhaustion you believed was a sign of your worth now feels like a prison. This is the moment you realize you are not tired because you are weak. You are tired because you have been aiming at the wrong target. It's not the weight of the work that is breaking you. It's the betrayal of realizing the work was never meant to make you free. You were taught to climb the ladder, but no one told you it was leaning against the wrong wall. You were trained to move faster, but you were never asked where you were going. You were told that discipline meant endurance, but never that it could also mean restraint. True discipline is not about doing more. It's about knowing exactly when to stop. It's the gladiator looking up from the blood and sand, and for the first time, seeing the emperor. Really seeing him. The gladiator realizes he's not fighting for freedom. He's fighting to entertain. And it hurts. It's a fear, a kind of primal dread that sinks into your stomach. The fear that you've wasted everything. The fear that every late night, every early morning, every sacrifice was for nothing but to serve a system that was designed to keep you small. You look at the man who is succeeding, the one who seems to float effortlessly from success to success, and you realize he doesn't work hard. He works smart. He doesn't race. He waits. He doesn't prove himself. He has already proven it in silence. You start to question everything. The people who told you to work harder, were they on your side? Or were they the ones who benefited from your exhaustion? The company that gave you a bonus and a plaque, was that a reward or a pacifier to keep you docile, to keep you from asking for what you were really worth? The feeling is not anger. It is worse than anger. It is a deep, bone-chilling clarity. The feeling of being betrayed by your own beliefs, by your own identity as a hard worker. You feel the weight of every hour, every drop of sweat, and you realize it was all a payment for a game you were never told the rules of. You were just told to keep running. And you did. The ambition you once felt, the burning desire to succeed, now feels tainted. It feels naive. It feels like a child's wish in a world of ruthless adults. You see the gladiator again, bleeding in the sand, and you feel his pain, not just physically, but existentially. He's a magnificent warrior. He's the best at what he does. But he will never be the emperor. He will never lift his thumb and decide the fate of 1,000 men. His hard work has made him a spectacle, but it has not made him a sovereign. And now you see yourself in his place. The realization hits you like a physical blow. You've been playing a game you could never win, on a field you could never own. The applause, the praise, the fleeting sense of accomplishment, it was all a distraction, a masterful illusion. And in that moment of crushing clarity, a new cold resolve sets in. The choice is no longer about working harder. The choice is about working differently. You begin to value something far rarer than effort: control. Control of your time, control of your perception, control of the narrative, and ultimately, control of the outcome. You see that these things don't come to the hardest worker. They come to the sharpest manipulator of movement, the man who steps once with perfect aim, while others run in place. He understands this. Effort is visible, but leverage is invisible. The ones in control are not the ones sweating. They are the ones who profit from your sweat. They are the ones who can move resources, shift attention, and bend perception without breaking a sweat themselves. You were taught to respect the man who never stops, the one who is always on. But Machiavelli would teach you to respect the man who waits, who chooses when to be seen, how to be heard, and where to leave no trace. This is the essence of true power. Not chaos, not noise, not endless motion, but measured, intentional force. Think of the battlefield. The general does not fight. He does not swing the sword or carry the weight. He directs. He sees the entire terrain. He understands timing. He knows that force must be precise, or it is wasted. One wrong move, one early attack, and the entire army collapses. The soldier may be brave, strong, and tireless, but the war is won by the man who reads the silence before the storm, not the one who charges into it blindly. And that's where most men fail. They think if they just keep working harder, someone will notice. Someone will reward them. Someone will hand them the crown. But crowns are not handed out. They are taken by men who understand the hidden layers of power. Men who don't wait to be chosen because they've already rigged the game. You see it now. The busiest people are rarely the most powerful. They are the ones with the least control over their own lives. They are reacting, not creating. They are responding, not commanding. And that's why the wealthiest and most powerful men in history are often obsessed with stillness. They wake up before everyone else, disappear into hours of silence, avoid noise, and cut people off. They understand the value of uncluttered attention. While others chase dopamine and distractions, they are building something the world will obey, not just admire. Your obsession with being busy is costing you your edge. Your need to always be seen is blinding you to your position. And your addiction to motion is the very reason you are stuck. The next level of power does not require more effort. It requires less noise, fewer moves, and stronger, more deliberate moves. It requires silence, the kind of silence that makes others speak, just to fill the void you leave. That is when you know you have entered a different arena, where hard work ends and true power begins. This is the ultimate twist. The final, terrifying truth you were never meant to discover. The path to power is not about being seen. It's about becoming unreadable. It is a vanishing act. The world has convinced you that you must prove yourself, that every day is an audition, that every effort must be recorded, time-stamped, and posted for everyone to see. But kings do not audition. Generals do not beg to be seen. True power, when real, does not explain itself. The worker is told that visibility is the path to promotion, that if he keeps showing up louder, earlier, harder, eventually he will be rewarded. But understand this: when you are always available, you are always replaceable. When you are always talking, they learn how to predict you. And once they can predict you, they can control you. Machiavelli knew the value of opacity. He understood that the most effective leader was the one whose intentions remained hidden, not because he had none, but because he refused to display them prematurely. A leader who speaks too much gives his enemies something to aim at, but a silent man becomes a mirror, and no one dares strike a reflection. Let that sink in. The most powerful man is often the least understood, and that is your edge. You must stop trying to convince others of your potential. Stop narrating your journey. Stop explaining your every move. Your enemies do not need a tour of your plans. Let them stay confused. Let them make false assumptions. Let them underestimate you. Because underestimation is the camouflage of the truly dangerous. The world respects mystery far more than it respects effort, and mystery is not a talent. It is a choice. When you reveal everything, you give the game away. When you say too much, you become noise, and when you become noise, you lose gravity. A lion does not roar to prove he is a lion. He roars once, and the forest remembers for years. The rest of the time, he is silent, still, and watching. Can you do the same? Can you go a week without posting, a month without announcing? Can you train in silence, build in silence, grow in silence, and then arrive complete, undeniable, and untouchable? Or are you addicted to being seen? Because addiction to visibility is modern slavery. It keeps you dependent on feedback, on approval, on likes, comments, and applause. It traps you in a loop of external validation. And a man in that loop can be led. You cannot be free while you need to be noticed. You cannot dominate while you still beg for credit. You will never build an empire if your identity is tied to the grind that pleases others. The game is not about proving your worth. The game is about becoming unavoidable. And that has nothing to do with how hard you work, and everything to do with how rare your presence becomes. In every empire, there are workers, but only one architect. The workers build the palace. The architect owns the blueprint, and when the walls fall, it is not the tired man who is remembered. It is the one who planned it all. This is the end of the line, the final, brutal lesson. Hard work in and of itself is not wrong. It is a necessary first stage, a proving ground. But staying there? That is the trap. The world doesn't reward effort. It rewards effect. It does not crown the man who tries the most. It crowns the man who alters the landscape with the least motion possible. The crowd chants for the fighter who bleeds, but the kingdom belongs to the one who never had to fight at all. And if that makes you uncomfortable, good. That discomfort is the signal, the fracture in the illusion, the last gasp of a lie dying inside you. Because deep down, a part of you already knew. You knew something was wrong with the endless grind, with the applause that felt hollow, with the exhaustion that never bought you peace. You knew, but you didn't have the language for it. Now you do. Hard work without direction is servitude. Hard work without detachment is addiction. Hard work without leverage is enslavement dressed up as virtue. And the man who wants to rise must do more than labor. He must learn to disappear from the pattern that controls others, to step back, to observe, to move once, cleanly, like the hand of God across a chessboard. Because once you taste what it feels like to win without being seen, you never go back to begging for recognition. You are no longer interested in being admired. You are interested in being remembered. And that difference, that quiet, dangerous difference, is what separates the empire builder from the bricklayer. So, choose now. Will you keep chasing the pride of labor, or will you step into the ruthless stillness of the strategist? Will you keep exhausting yourself for temporary praise, or will you become unreachable, unreadable, and ultimately untouchable? Because the man who cannot be touched cannot be controlled, and the man who cannot be controlled becomes legend. If you've made it this far, it's because you're done pretending. You're done performing. You're ready to vanish from the crowd and become the storm they never saw coming. Conclusion. We have journeyed together to uncover a profound and unsettling truth. The glorification of hard work is often a beautiful lie designed to keep you obedient. We've seen how the gladiator, though admired for his struggle, is ultimately disposable, while the emperor, who exerts no physical effort, holds all the power. The real game is not about how hard you work, but about how you leverage your efforts and become an architect of your own life, not just a bricklayer. It's about understanding the power of stillness, the wisdom of silence, and the strategic advantage of being unreadable. Your true strength lies not in your busyness, but in your ability to observe, to plan, and to strike with precision. The man who truly wins is the one who steps back and changes the game, not the one who works the hardest within it. If this message struck something in you, if it clarified what you've always felt, then you know this is just the beginning. The next level of power requires a new kind of thinking. To continue this journey of mastery and to learn how to sharpen the next weapon, subscribe to our channel, The Stoic Philosophy, for more videos.
Thank you for watching this video here on The Stoic Philosophy. If you found value in this, I invite you to explore more videos on the channel. There's so much more wisdom to uncover. And don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next one. Thanks again for being here, and I'll see you in the next video.